Well, I don't think this year's Clash was exactly what NASCAR wanted to kick off the season with. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Talkin NASCAR. I'm your host, Andrew. Hope you had a great week this past week to open up the month of February. And I hope you're ready for this next week in the NASCAR season to kick off the NASCAR regular season with Daytona Speed Weeks. We got a lot of stuff coming that is going to be super, super fun along the way. But this past week was the Clash week, actually, at Bowman Gray Stadium to kick off the season for the NASCAR Cup Series. The NASCAR Cup Series lone, or excuse me, not lone exhibition, but their preseason exhibition race this year, once again, back at Bowman Gray Stadium in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. However, this year was fraught with a lot more problems than last year's rendition of the Clash at Bowman Gray Stadium. And the obvious thing being the snow and cold weather that invaded the entire region of North Carolina this past week. I mean, the amount of snowfall was absolutely insane. Like, as I was looking up the records, like, I think I mentioned it maybe in my last episode, but I looked up the average totals for the amount of snow that North Carolina as a state had received, like, across several different towns. Yeah, 20 inches, almost 2 feet, not fun. And I'm saying that as someone who lives in the one of the northernmost states in the United States, in Wisconsin, a state known for getting crazy amounts of snow every single year. So, yeah, but 20 inches? It's just absolutely insane, guys. Like, I can't believe it. So after numerous postponements, though, from Sunday, or excuse me, canceling all these Saturday heat races just to moving everything to Sunday and having only qualifying and the last chance qualifier, or only one last chance qualifier, excuse me, to moving everything to Monday and then to moving everything to Wednesday again. Like, the amount of stuff that NASCAR went through just to get this race going was absolutely incredible. And I gotta give both NASCAR and the teams the credit for sticking it out in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, just to put on this exhibition race, a race that they really don't have to do. Like, NASCAR could have easily said, "Yeah, the snow's just getting too much. I think we should just, cancel the entire Clash." No, they said, "We're running the Clash this year at Bowman Gray Stadium. We're gonna give all those people who bought tickets a show to have that to watch," and it was a show. I'll just say that. I will just say that. And again, the teams, like some of the open teams, like Garage 66, Team Amerivet, they could have just withdrawn their entries and said, "Yeah, no, we don't have to do this." But yeah, they stayed with it. They were gonna get their money's worth out of that race by entering in. Burt Myers, local short track legend at Bowman Gray Stadium, put up a good show. Had a beautiful car out there. Chad Fincham as well had a good showing as well. So I mean, there was plenty of good things from this Clash at Bowman Gray Stadium. So, speaking of qualifying, that's the first thing I'm going to cover on this show. So, how this would work is that the top 20 in qualifying would automatically advance into the main show, the Cookout Clash at Bowman Gray Stadium. And the top 20 were pretty standard. I will say this: it was Ryan Preece, Kyle Larson, William Byron, Ty Gibbs, Chase Briscoe, Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin, Bubba Wallace, Chris Buescher, Ross Chastain, Tyler Reddick, Chase Elliott, Carson Hocevar, Kyle Busch, Joey Logano. Austin Dillon was a surprising name that made it into the main field, but Austin Dillon is very good on short tracks like Bowman Gray, high tire wear. He was able to advance in. Ryan Blaney as well. Shane Van Gisbergen was another surprising one. He's starting to figure out ovals though. He really starting is to figure out the ovals, especially on a tougher short track like Bowman Gray Stadium. It was very impressive to see that. And then Connor Zilich's teammate, his rookie teammate, Shane Van Gisbergen of Connor Zilich. Connor Zilich, I mean, his first NASCAR Cup Series, I guess full-time NASCAR Cup Series star because he made a couple last year, but in his new number, the number 88 for Trackhouse, made it in as the 19th fastest car. I think that's really impressive to come to a short track like Bowman Gray Stadium and qualify your way in on speed in those cold conditions, it's very impressive. I'll give Connor Zilic that. And then Daniel Suarez being the 20th fastest driver, making it in on speed. I will be honest, I thought Daniel Suarez was going to have to race his way in through the last chance qualifier. I did not have a lot of confidence and I did not have a lot of expectations heading into this year for Daniel Suarez. I was expecting him to be the third car at Spire Motorsports, but would you know, I mean, he outran his teammate Michael McDowell, who I thought Michael McDowell was going to race into the clash on speed. I mean, Carson Hocevar is well out of Daniel Suarez's league at this point, but still very impressive for Daniel Suarez. So that was your top 20. And Josh Berry, Austin Cindric, Alex Bowman, Corey LaJoie filling in for Brad Keselowski, AJ Allmendinger, John Hunter Nemechek, Zane Smith, Noah Gregson, Ty Dillon, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Eric Jones, Michael McDowell, Cole Custer, Chad Fincham, Burt Myers, Cody Ware, Riley Herbst, and Todd Gilliland would all have to race their way in through the last chance qualifier. And there was a good amount of action in that last chance qualifier. I mean, early on, there was a pretty big spin. Riley Herbst got spun off the front bumper I believe was Ricky Stenhouse Jr. I might have to check that, but ended up spinning out Riley Herbst, and big damage was suffered by John Hunter Nemechek, who kind of just plowed in there like he always does. John Hunter Nemechek, big damage to the front end of his car, but John Hunter still was able to continue on. Actually, was in the running for that final transfer spot, but it ended up coming down to a pretty interesting battle all the way to the end between Corey LaJoie, AJ Allmendinger, and Austin Cindric, and it ended up being Josh Berry and Austin Cindric moving on. I mean, Josh Berry was able to get out in front early. Mike McDowell did lead the field to the green at the last chance qualifier, but jumped the restart, so he actually had to go to the back for a penalty that he suffered. So he ended up going in towards the back of the field. He ended up finishing down in 11th among the last chance qualifying drivers, going a lap down. There was only, I think it was only 8 drivers, excuse me, 9, that finished on the lead lap in the last chance qualifier. But I want to give a quick shout out, real quick, to Corey LaJoie filling in for Brad Keselowski in the number 6 car for RFK Racing. I mean, Corey LaJoie, he didn't look very like comfortable in that car. I will give you that. He looked like he was kind of sliding around a lot, kind of sending it off into the corners, kind of all willy-nilly. But, I mean, he was getting the job done in that number 6 car, like, however he was doing it. Did not look pretty for Corey LaJoie behind the wheel of that car, but he made it competitive. He almost got back into the clash, nearly losing to Austin Cindric, a Penske car, and you have Corey LaJoie, a reserve driver for RFK, piloting Brad Keselowski's car on almost getting into the clash. I mean, that was very impressive, and for a while, AJ Allmendinger was also up front leading laps with Josh Berry and Austin Cindric, but eventually Berry kind of just took control of the race and took it from there and had a pretty easy win, but it really was a last lap, last corner battle between Cindric, LaJoie, and Allmendinger, with Austin Cindric eventually coming out on top. And then finally, you had the points provisional into the clash, the main show. The driver who was highest in points from the past year, who did not make it, and that ended up being Alex Bowman. He actually retired from the LCQ after only running 56 laps. I think it was kind of obvious that he was going to be the one to advance into the clash no matter what, so I think he might have just retired early. I did miss the LCQ and qualifying. They were going on pretty early in the day, and I mean, when I say early, like mid-afternoon, I was still in school. I had basketball practice, so I mean, I just couldn't get around to watching it. I'm sorry, but I tried watching a little bit of it, but I mean, I just couldn't, I couldn't get back to it in time. But anyway, Barry and Cindric would end up moving on to the main event, and for the majority of the first half of the clash, I mean, it was basically just Kyle Larson. I mean, he kinda got challenged by William Byron, his teammate, and Chase Briscoe, but for the most part, up until about lap 40 and lap 35, Kyle Larson was pulling away and just had a crazy large gap on the field. Byron did start to close the gap around lap 35, but still Larson was leading. And then we got a debris caution on lap 40 that kind of reset the field. And eventually, we got a restart, but Larson would clear everyone once again. We get another pretty good solid run until Ross Chastain would actually spin out Ryan Blaney, and also spun out Bubba Wallace. Blaney got a pretty good shove from Ross Chastain going into the corner. spun Bubba Wallace out. He had to go to the pits for repairs. And I mean, pretty much even after the restart, Kyle Larson kept the lead still for the most part until about lap 71. William Byron closed back in, was challenging Kyle Larson for the lead once again. Byron actually got past Larson, and Larson began to fall off a little bit, getting passed by Chase Briscoe, Carson Hocevar, and Denny Hamlin. So it was definitely kind of a downward spiral starting for Kyle Larson as we got towards the end of the first half. Austin Cindric got spun by Shane Van Gisbergen on lap 77 of the first half, going to about lap 100 before we get to the break. And then we got to lap 102 and we got our halfway break. And during the halfway break, we actually had the track starting to rain slash sleet because, it being so cold right now in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And NASCAR had to deem this race a wet weather race. The cars actually went back out on track under caution, but then had to return to the pit area so track crews can get the standing water off the track. I think that took about like 20 minutes overall, and then we got back to racing. William Byron got back to the lead, but it was just definitely a chaotic start to the first like couple laps. I mean, cars were spinning out already, like, only after a couple laps. They had to go back again to get some more, uh, water off the track, then they came back out, and it was just a whole chaotic mess, and from there, it pretty much was just a demo derby. I mean, it took a while for them to, like, get an actual good run going because cars were just spinning out after, like, only 3 quarter corners, and eventually we got a good green flag run, about until lap, 120 when Josh Berry actually spun out and hit the wall pretty hard, had to go behind the wall for repairs. But this definitely shifted the dynamic of this race because for the most part, throughout the majority of this race, it was the same cast of characters up in the front. It was Chase Briscoe, William Byron, Kyle Larson, Ty Gibbs, Chase Briscoe, and Danny Hamlin and Carson Hocevar. So, like, it was really the top seven weren't really like getting shuffled out. They were just kind of shuffling in that position right there. But with this wet weather, though, we did see a couple things. One, we saw Carson Hocevar really get out to the lead and was really challenging everyone for the lead. Ty Gibbs was also really involved in this. But we also saw some of the road course veterans really start to close in, like Shane Van Gisbergen, Connor Zilisch, and even Daniel Suarez for Spire Motorsports, who shockingly made it into the clash on speed. They were all starting to challenge everyone for the lead and were making their way up front while guys like Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, William Byron, and Ryan Blaney, some of the quicker guys from the first half of the race, they began to fade towards the back half of the field. Same with Denny Hamlin. But as we got further and further into the second half of this race, uh, things started to get like truly crazy in the Madhouse, like just for the wrong reasons. And one of those reasons was that there were just so many cautions in this race. Overall, we had 17 cautions in this race at the Clash. I mean, the Madhouse has a reason for getting its nickname. I mean, there's a ton of wrecks, ton of chaos on track, hard short track racing, but this was just not short track racing at all, guys. I mean, at this point, cars were just blowing it into corners, having so many cautions, so many spinouts. Like NASCAR tried to keep the yellow tucked back in their pocket, not to throw the caution every single time a car spun out, and they did it every now and then. But I mean, there's just so many cautions. Again, 17 total cautions, and overall in tonight's race, there was 135 laps under caution. They were not counted towards the overall race. You can only complete laps under green out of 200. Those 135 yellow flag laps made this race so long. It was absolutely unbelievable. That it was a new record that was broken in the NASCAR Cup Series. Caution laps total in a race, 135, now held by the 2026 Cookout Clash at Bowman Gray Stadium that eclipsed a record that was held, I believe, from like 1998 at Memphis Speedway when they had 132 laps under caution. Absolutely insane. It even got to a point where some teams were starting to run out of fuel out on track. Like Chase Elliott ran out of fuel, Kyle Larson ran out of fuel, and eventually teams were saying that like, yeah, we can't make it, but we're just gonna try to stretch it. It was kind of absurd to start hearing that because the teams were not filling up full on fuel just to get an extra advantage on weight. Having less fuel in the car means less weight, means an easier time on the brakes, an easier time to get around the corners on a wet track. So that's obviously an advantage. But it got to a point where NASCAR said, okay, we got to bring everyone down pit road and just fill up on fuel. It was just absolutely absurd. That was about lap 165. So only 60 ish laps into the second half of the race, they had to bring every team down, into the pits to get some fuel and to also put some tires on. We also had a pretty absurd penalty that absolutely ruined Carson Hocevar's race. He was told under this yellow that when the teams were, filling up on fuel, for fuel only, Carson Hocevar was told to switch back to wet tires after they had put on dry tires before the caution, and then was penalized by NASCAR for changing tires. I mean, like, what are you gonna do? Like, you NASCAR told them to change tires after they did. Like, I'm is NASCAR penalizing them for changing to dries in the first place? Like, it's kind of confusing. I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of a dumb penalty, but that ended up ruining Carson Hocevar's race. We also had some other incidents out on track. I mean, Bubba Wallace got into it with Daniel Suarez and as well Shane Van Gisbergen. I mean, Daniel Suarez kind of was just getting mad at everyone. I mean, lashed out at Bubba Wallace, gave Bubba some pretty big damage, kind of lashed out at his former teammate Shane Van Gisbergen. So tempers were flying in the Madhouse, to be sure. It was definitely a very interesting moment because I had never really seen that from Daniel Suarez. I had never really seen him lose his temper like that, but it was definitely something that caught my eye. But amidst all of this chaos, all these cautions, all these penalties, all these spins, everything that went on, there was one guy that consistently was just rising through the field, quiet and consistently, and that was Ryan Preece. And that was Ryan Preece. Started in 18th and slowly over the course of this race, kept the car clean, didn't get involved in any wrecks, and ends up getting to the front. And by the final laps, he is out in front with William Byron trying to chase him back down, but he couldn't. And Ryan Preece ends up getting his first NASCAR Cup Series victory. Not a points paying race, I will say that, but still. Ryan Preece's first NASCAR Cup Series victory coming in the clash at Bowman Gray Stadium. Absolutely incredible to see that from Ryan Preece. Congratulations to him. Hired by Jack Roush when Ryan Preece, for a long time in his NASCAR Cup Series career, was just struggling to get a full-time ride. I mean, he was at JT Doherty Racing in a second uncharted car, gets dropped from that ride, doesn't have a full-time ride heading into 2022, is Stuart Haas's reserve driver, gets some rides with Rick Ware Racing here and there, gets some rides in the Truck Series, but nothing really else going on for Ryan Preece. 2023 gets the call to replace Cole Custer, has a couple years in Stuart Haas Racing Equipment full-time, but it's a fading team, nothing really to hit anything going for him, and now he gets a shot with with Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing, brought in by Brad Keselowski and Jack Roush. And what'd you know, he almost makes the playoffs last year on points. Now heading into 2026, he gets his first win of his NASCAR Cup Series career at Bowman Gray Stadium for the Clash. I mean, really cool stuff we were seeing, despite everything that had happened in this race, despite everything that had come going on before the race, the snow, the sleet, the rain, the penalties, everything. Ryan Preece still able to walk out of Bowman Gray Stadium with his first victory of his NASCAR Cup Series career. Congratulations to Ryan Preece on getting his first NASCAR Cup Series victory. Taking a look at the entire finishing order, starting from the bottom. I mean, with the two 2311 racing cars of Bubba Wallace and Tyler Reddick, Bubba Wallace actually finished a lap down. He just got involved in so many accidents in this race. Austin Cindric in 21st didn't really make any movement out of the bottom half of this field. He ended up in 21st. Shane Van Gisbergen in 20th. He was running up front for most of the second half. I mean, after the track was wet and they had transitioned to the wet weather tires, I mean, Shane Van Gisbergen was making moves on the extreme outside lanes of Bowman Gray Stadium, which we don't see very often. And the outside lanes really became the dominant lines. And Shane Van Gisbergen, along with his teammate of Connor Zilic, who finished in 18th, were able to move their way up through the field. But Shane Van Gisbergen got caught up in a couple of wrecks, both him and Zilic, and it kind of set them back. As much as this race was like you were able to move your way back up through the field, it was difficult to pass here at Bowman Gray, especially when you had these wet conditions and it was cold, it was very tough to pass, and once you kinda got back in the pack, you really could not move your way forward, so that was kinda the similar story for SVG and Connor Zilisch. Kyle Busch ends up in 19th. 2 Hendrick drivers of Larson and Elliott, both had to come to the back after getting some fuel in their cars. They were stalled on track. Again, tough to pass, couldn't move their way forward. Same with Carson Hocevar, had that penalty midway through the, second half, went to the back, could not move his way back forward, still finished in 15th. Gibbs and Bell, both of them, once the wet weather tires went on, they both just faded. Uh, Gibbs definitely did stay up at the front a little bit more, but over time, he just definitely could not keep up, so he ended up finishing down in 14th. Josh Berry and Joey Logano finished both in 11th and 12th. Good result for Berry. Won his way into the last chance, or into the main event through the last chance qualifier. He's a good short track racer. Quietly finishes in 12th. Alex Bowman, the points advancement recipient, he ends up in 10th, a top 10 result for him. Ross Chastain and Chris Buescher, two quiet guys who really did not have anything to say in this race, but still really good top 10 results. Same with Austin Dillon. I mean, Austin Dillon was just driving everything he had in that 3 car. He was just putting it all out there, out on track, slinging it into the corners like he was sideways coming off of every corner. I was really impressed with what Austin Dillon was doing. It looked like he had energy and he was willing to move forward and kind of ship people out of the way. Finishes in 7th. Really good result for him. You have Briscoe and Denny Hamlin both finishing in the top 10. Briscoe in 6th, Hamlin in 5th. Definitely very quiet nights overall from them. Briscoe was up front more towards the beginning of this race. Same with Hamlin. After the wet tires went on, they kind of faded, but eventually, as the track dried out, they did move their way back up through the field to finish inside the top 10. And this top 4, starting with Daniel Suarez, again, I was not expecting to anything from Daniel Suarez. I was not expecting him to qualify into the main event on speed, and yet he did. I was not expecting him to do much more than just operate in the 20s, but he ended up moving up his way into the top 5 after the wet weather tires went on, which, looking back, was the great change in this race and everything that really allowed Daniel Suarez to get up to the front of the field. His road course racing experience helped him with these wet conditions, ends up with a top 5 finish in 4th. So really good run from Daniel Suarez. Does this really change my opinion on his season, like expectations wise? No, I'm still not expecting anything crazy out of Daniel Suarez, but definitely a really good result for Daniel Suarez. So keep an eye out for him, I guess, going forward. Then Ryan Blaney faded early in the second half of this race uh, after the halfway break. Again, the wet weather tires definitely made a difference on that, kind of changed the outlook of this race. But again, as the track dried, long run Ryan Blaney worked his way back up through the field, was really fast early on in this race, faded towards the end of the first half, faded once again into the second half as it got underway. But long run Ryan Blaney came back to play at the end of this race, finishing in 3rd. And then William Byron made a really good charge at the end to chase down Ryan Preece, but it was just not enough to catch the short track ace, the modified champion from Connecticut, Ryan Preece. Congratulations to him once again on getting his first victory in the NASCAR Cup Series. So there you go. Those are a look at your first finishing results of the 2026 season from the Cookout Clash at Bowman Gray Stadium. So with that all out of the way, it is time to give my triple R scale review of the Cookout Clash at Bowman Gray Stadium. Its second ever running. So here we go. The triple R scale, the race review rating scale, whatever you want to call it. I brought it out onto the show last year to end the recaps, these race recaps for the NASCAR Cup Series. But this race overall for me was just kind of like a meh way to open up the season. I mean, NASCAR was definitely dealt a bad hand with this weekend. All the weather, having to reschedule this race several times, the delays, all the caution laps, just made everything really like inconvenient for a viewer overall. I'm sure the show was just great to watch if you were at Bowman Gray, besides the cold. So that was definitely something that will probably knock this race down a little bit. But again, just the cautions, everything was just mid overall. Like, I'm being honest with that here. So, and the other thing too was that you also had the TV coverage switch from Fox over to FS2 was just really inconvenient overall. You never like to switch channels for a major sporting event like this. Moving off of Big Fox over to FS2 definitely was not something that helped this race's cause overall. overall, racing product being mid overall, all the cautions, lots of spins, having to refuel, just everything with that made this race really weird, really confusing, just kind of mid overall. And then you also had the TV coverage having to switch overall, and the circumstances surrounding this race, the snow, the racing, like it's out of NASCAR's control, but it all has to factor into this time's triple R skill review rating, the race review rating. So I'm gonna go with 55% for the Cookout Clash at Bowman Gray Stadium. It wasn't bad. It really wasn't. It was just not the best race ever. It was just a fine race. Definitely not the way you want to kick off your 2026 NASCAR Cup Series season, but I think this was definitely better than not having a race. I'll just say that. So 55% on the Triple R scale for the Cookout Clash at Bowman Gray Stadium. I will want to touch on Fox real quick for just a minute. Yeah, Fox, same old, same old. Realistically, I didn't sense a lot of energy in the booth. Uh, yeah, I mean, Mike Joy, Clint Boyer, Kevin Harvick, there just wasn't a lot of energy overall. I mean, the best thing I think out of this was Larry McReynolds down in the pits, filling everyone in. I think that was pretty much the best part of this race. But yeah, there wasn't a lot of energy coming from the guys in the booth. Um, it was just same old Fox for NASCAR coverage, which is sad to say. I was hoping Fox would elevate things a little bit, and there's still time for them to turn things around this year. Definitely, they have 14 more races to go, but I did not like what I saw so far. The one positive thing I will say is that there are no more cartoon characters and no more goofy comic characters. That is a big plus for me. I will say that. So I'm happy to not have those anymore. That is at least the one good thing that Fox showed me from this year's Cookout Clash at Bowman Gray Stadium. But that will do it for this episode of Talkin NASCAR with Andrew Volkman. Everyone, hope you enjoyed this episode. Tell me what you think about this year's Cookout Clash at Bowman Gray Stadium. What you thought of it. Was it a good race, a mid race, a bad race, or just a terrible race? Let me know what you would have given it on my triple R scale. And let me know if you have a different name for the triple R scale, to be frank. Like, triple R scale, like, that's just very uncreative at this point. But I hope you're ready for the more race review recaps coming up this year. Again, I'm going to be trying to recap the Truck Series races this year, the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series races this year, along with the NASCAR Cup Series races. So I hope you're ready for that. Got a bunch more content ready to go for this week being Speed Week, so I hope you all are ready for that. And I'll see you in the next episode that I do. Also, don't forget to check out Talking Sports with Miles and Andrew. I'll have links to that show down in the description below. I'll see you in the next one, everyone. Take care.